Oh, Joanna, before you go, I just want to mention the Frank Jackson talk next Tuesday, which will be really exciting. You should sign up. Here's the link.
All right. Let me make sure I have all my presenting notes up. And then I will start. Excellent. Okay, we're good. Hello, I'm Joanna, and this is a presentation on Hocąk. So the Hocąk people are a group of Native Americans. It's in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. Most of the people are in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and there's also a tribe in Nebraska with their own reservation. Wisconsin doesn't really have their own reservation. They just have like small pockets of land throughout. The Hocąk language is a Siouan language, which is a language family that's in the central US pre-contact, especially a little west of the Mississippi River. The Wisconsin is east of the Mississippi River, but like besides that, like almost all of it is west. Its sub family is the Chuere Winnebago Siouan language. Hocąk, the reason why it's spelled with two O's is because it's a long O, and I'll go into that more later. But it means either been described as sacred voice or people of the big voice. People in Wisconsin might know the Hocąk people because of their casinos, which are relatively observable. So like that's probably the main reason people might have heard of them. Another way that they might have heard of them is effigy mounds, which are basically burial mounds. They're most of them in North America, like Wisconsin has the most of all the states in North America. I've been to Astalon State Park, which has some burial mounds. They're thought to be different from the people who made the other burial mounds, which are more common. And the Hocąk people say that they're descended from them. And I found out recently that Sharice Davids, who is apparently a representative from Kansas's 3rd Congressional District, is a registered member of the Hocąk Nation of Wisconsin. So I'm not Hocąk myself. But when I was little, so as you see, there's another spelling, Hocąk, like this. When I was little, I took lessons from some people in the Hocąk Nation Milwaukee branch office. I'm from Milwaukee. After school, my brother and I. Can you hear my notifications from people entering waiting room? No? Okay. And so the lady who taught me there was Pat. Unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. But she was really nice, and my brother and I, and along with some other people, took lessons from her. And then also recently, I proofread a paper on reflexive constructions in the Hocąk language. Okay, so for the phonology and orthography, there's basically 5 main vowels. There's the a, which is sort of can be or and then there's the e sound and I sound, o sound, and u sound. You can see like when it's not the exact same as the IPA, then then I clarify that. Otherwise, it's the same because it's the Americanist version of IPA, which is a version of IPA that was made for Native American languages. So there's those base vowels. They can also a, I, and u can be nasalized. So a, e, and u, and they can also be all of them can be lengthened, including the nasal ones. I have the list of consonants here too. The glottal stop can either be represented with like one quote mark thing or two, and because it's sort of confusing because you use one for adjectives. So the adjective basically means at the same time as you're making the, like say the k sound, you're also making so it'll be like k. I'm really bad at doing it. So as you can see, I showed the long vowel as like 2 A's. The Nebraskan version uses macrons instead of doubling the language, doubling the letter. And so in case you don't like me having it just in alphabetical order and want your nice IPA table, here's some tables. Sort of covered up, oh well. Okay, so there's a lot of like sound changes that happen. So one of them is called Dorsey's law. I think it's something that happens in languages in general, but in particular in this language, the O, so the voiceless obstruent will mean the P, the C is the ch sound, the k, s, sh, or h, and yep. So this works across morpheme boundaries. Like there's an example, pras is actually paras, and I think it meant like plane or something. Here's some more random sound changes. So after N or M, the vowels always can be nasalized, which is not particularly surprising because N, nasal consonants, nasal vowels. And within a syllable, if the vowels will take the nasality of adjacent vowels, including skipping over H's or W's, which are also often, especially H's are often removed. So not Isa, instead of not Isa, it's not Isa. And I said I wasn't nasalizing the A at the end either. I don't, these colons mean nothing. I just didn't want to put it all on different lines. And also R becomes N after nasal vowels, which is might be sort of surprising. But for example, there's like Chinese dialects where R and N are sort of similar. So, and yeah, notice that the A, when you tack on the ra, that's an enclitic that's like the definite article. Since the R changed into an N, the A will also become nasalized A. Some syntax, the word order is SOV, which means the subject, so the thing doing the action, and then the object, the thing undergoing the action, and the verb. So instead of, it doesn't really distinguish things in the same way that we do. So we don't think, it's not really like accusative and nominative and accusative. So it's not like, the things that are put in the same category are, as you can see, actor and undergoer. So the dog chases a cat and Joanna speaks, those are like, those are the things acting. And then the undergoer, dog chases a cat, or Joanna falls. Since it's falling, that's something like I'm not actively doing, I'm like sort of undergoing that. That's put in the same category as what cat would be. Instead of in English, like you would say, I fall, you wouldn't say me fall. And so that's why like there's a big difference between intransitive and transitive verbs. So the verbal morphology is very complicated. So there's a few conjugations, and 3 and 4 the textbook wants me to say is not technically a conjugation. They're basically just special things about the verb. So conjugation 1 is a lot of things, and then conjugation 2 has 8 subconjugations. The first 2 are very common, and the last 4 are like, I think, consist of only one thing, so that's basically an irregular verb. Conjugation 3, you can see it means that the verb needs a pronominal affix of the undergoer paradigm. So undergoer, like the thing undergoing the verb. And conjugation 4 is for verbs that can be inflected only for a third person. So for something like it rains. So like state processes that aren't controlled by an inanimate actor, unless you believe like Zeus is throwing down thunderbolts. It's hailing. So 3 main categories of verbs are intransitive active verbs, intransitive inactive verbs, and intransitive third person only verbs. So they're all going to be they all have their and also transitive verbs. These are like the 4 main categories, and they all have like different endings that you'll have. So here's an example of an intransitive inactive verb. So it's just sort of like a state of being, or for example, like falling, I fall, that would be in this category. So the shock, so the third singular is the base form. So shak is going to be he is old, and basically everything else is based on that. So the he is the prefix that goes in front of first singular, and also you can see a lot of random changes, and it's sort of confusing. A lot of the sound changes you don't really understand. Here it looks like it's just verb length, but I'll show you later some things where you can like see what the base stem forms are, and then like what it turns into. So this is the intransitive active verb. So before this was intransitive inactive. This is intransitive active. So like playing. So that's shkach with 2 A's. So it's a long vowel. And again, a lot of the time it's shortened. And you can see, oh yeah, there's like sort of 3 categories where we would just think of it as first person plural. So first person dual, you and I. First person plural inclusive. So we, I said you exclusive instead of we exclusive, my bad. We inclusive means like I'm including you in my version of we. So like we're going to the store, you'll be in that. But if we exclusive, then you won't be included. So the difference between first person inclusive dual, first person inclusive plural, one of them's just 2 people, the other one would be more. And then, yeah, everything else, those is about what you'd expect. So here's the, Adam?
Yeah, I was interested in the sh-g cluster in the previous example. Yeah. So was that one syllable there that they did weirdly?
Yeah.
Or okay, interesting.
So here's the generic paradigm for a transitive verb. And so for transitive verbs, like for us, we don't really like this. You might sort of expect, the actor is the thing that's in that prefix I play. This sort of makes sense. Here, undergoer is the thing that's sort of attached to it that we would think. But here for transitive verbs, we have both the actor and the undergoer. So that's the A is for actor, U is for undergoer. So you have special stuff added for all of those cases. So like, for example, the ni, that's the first singular is doing something to the second singular. Notice that a lot of these are empty. That's because they won't really show up, because instead you would have a reflexive thing. So you can't really say, I hit me, really. It's more, it would be, I hit myself. And so they have like just self. And that's the ending that or the prefix that they'll attach on. So I guess I'll bounce between these a little bit, but so you can see he, bury someone, very pleasant, I know. And you can see a few changes that change. So for example, he turns into ha before the W. And also you can see some of the R's turning into N's, I think. So like he, ra, and then the he turns into he, na, ke. And you can see again that the A is colored by the N to become nasalized. And there's just like a lot of sound changes, and it's kind of overwhelming. Okay, so here are a few comments. So you might not have noticed these, but the undergoer prefix is always preceding the actor prefix, except for in a few circumstances. So the first person inclusive, dual, or plural. Actor form, he. Let's go back if my computer lets me. So this he, this thing, it goes first, even though it's normally it wouldn't go first. And then ni, it is a specific thing specifically for first person acting on second person. For some reason, there's a special ending for that. Normally, it'd be more agglutinizing, where you would just have one prefix for each. I guess I said this already, but the missing boxes, you have reflexive instead of whatever, like instead of a special prefix. And so reflexive is just the prefix ki. And that was just the first conjugation. There's the second conjugation with all the 8 different subconjugations and all the special stuff for the third and fourth conjugation. So the second conjugation has special prefixes for actors of intransitive active verbs. So things like I play, and for transitive verbs. And like whatever the first consonant of the verb is matters for which subconjugation it is, and also like whether it's in second conjugation. So this textbook calls them formatives. So there's like a lot of just random stuff that gets attached to words. So it's very, very, very lot of little chunks getting added. So for example, there's reflexive pronouns. So it might be kara, ka, ku, or k. So for in this example, there's the kara in the middle of this. So these are two separate words. So like the sun, and this is talking about na kara. Anyway, so the kara is talking about, it's a reflexive possessive. So, and that you can see that it's also the subject third singular plus object third singular. Remember, we have those endings depending on the pronouns of both the actor and the undergoer. And so this would mean, and he embraced his son. And you can see the anaga is and. That's one of the things that I remember from being little. Like most of these charts I did not remember at all. But I did remember naga, but naga apparently. And also whenever you have a proper noun, so like a name, you'll end it with just ga. So when my brother and I wrote her a get well card, the ending was Joanna, Joanna ga, it was probably Peter first. So Peter ga, Joanna not ga. So like there was the and then there was also the ga for our names. And then you can also see reflexive, like with the key that I mentioned earlier, you can see the key is sort of built in there. And that's the reflexive thing. So it's saying he took pity on himself. So he was feeling sorry about himself. And the intensifier, so he was feeling very sorry about himself. I also saw this thing, which I thought was really cute, which is intensifying with duplication. So you would take the first syllable, so in this case it's the gi, and you would repeat it a bunch of times. So you'd have gi, 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 ajira, which would mean it starts making a squeaking noise. So in this case, it's probably talking about a door. And so I just thought it was really fun, all those keys. Some more things. So one of the other things I remember was that things were different for when you were lying down, sitting, or sitting. And what I had thought it was something like it was a different like conjugation or something that you added on, but it's an enclitic. So whenever you're in a horizontal or lying position, neutral or sitting position, vertical or standing position, you might add these enclitics. So you don't always have to have these enclitics when you're saying words, but like they will, like there are concepts that matter a lot, and the enclitics will be added on. So like, for example, this could be like this bow in horizontal position. That's the agre thing. You can see the K turns into a G, and in this case, the R turns into an N. So a few random sound changes. It's possible I missed some nasalized consonants, but I think I got it. Yeah, so that thing off the side is a translation of one of the things. Yes. And then just a few more little things that you add on. So there's a lot of things when you're talking about like causal or applicative beneficial. So that's what the apple Ben thing. It doesn't mean like Ben always has an apple or something. It means it's like for. So this is like for you. And then the ge, that's causal. So it's you stick it at the end to show that that's like what you are for the cause. And then you can see here the call and the top thing. So these are a little bit more hard to equate to something in English. So the call sort of means it's collective. So it's basically you have a bunch of people all together. So it's sort of redundant because it's already third plural. So you'll know that there's like multiple people there, but the collective sort of means there's a lot. And then the top thing is even more vague, and it's basically talking about it's going to be it's something that's going to be important for the conversation at hand. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of different prefixes based on instrumental uses. So blowing, cutting, stepping, heat, striking, mouth, hands, downward pressure. So it's like by or with these things, and they all have special things for that, which I think is sort of cool. So I believe, so it's time for numbers, and I believe this is the thing that was hanging in the classroom when I was little, because it looks very familiar. So Hijakira, I remember that one, and I remember Tani and Jo. I probably Noop as well, but I don't have a great memory. I had to learn a lot of this. But I remember doing a lot of stuff with like, she was quizzing us on addition. So what's Noop plus Noop? And we'd be like Job, or we had like this hoop thing where we try to get the most points, and it was labeled amount of points. And so you can see it's basically base 10. It's quite similar to English too, where like the teens are treated differently from like 21. So it's 1 teen, 2 teen instead of 10 and 1. Like 21, you can see is like 20, and then it's a 1. So the 9, you can see it starts with hijaki, which basically it's because it's 1 less than 10. So it's sort of like almost 10, one less than 10, yeah. But it's sort of, you can notice that like when you see 19, it's not 1 less than 20. So it's not just like in Latin, you would have 1 less than 20, but this is just like, this thing is 9, and then you would say 19. Here are some animals. We just did a lot of like heavy duty linguistic stuff. And now I wanted to do some stuff with that I would have done when I was little. So I already showed the numbers, and there's a lot of animals that you would learn. So one thing like in Hocąk, the Ho has like some people think that had to do with fishes instead of like the sacred voice thing. And then cha, I also thought it was sort of fun because it looked sort of like the chak, and although it's not nasalized, so I don't know why I thought it was interesting. That's not very similar. K-chok is the word for turtle. I should have my brother should have a recording somewhere of Pat telling a story about a turtle that I still remember to this day. And that's K-chok. But I was unable to acquire it from him. He cannot find it. So one thing that might be interesting is all the months, a lot of the months are named after animals. So look carefully at some of these, and then I will not let you look at it and see if anyone remembers which part all the animals are. So okay, months. So which part of what is the word for bear? Does anyone remember?
Yeah, that was hooch, right?
Yep. Anyone remember the word for say deer? Okay, it's not important. And yeah, so ho is fish, and there's the elk as well, which is hua. And then there's I also have the seasons here. Days of the week are sort of interesting that the word for Saturday is shopping day, which sort of I think is interesting because it sort of has some cultural impact then. And yeah, so some of them are blah day, and then Monday is also special, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all basically the same. I wonder when these came about. I don't actually know, because it would be sort of surprising if they happen to have days of the week and months in the exact same way that the Westerners had. So I suspect it probably originated relatively recently, although perhaps not. Maybe they just happened to, 7 days a week is special because it's like 1/4 of 28, which is important. And I guess 12 is a nice number, so it's possible, but who knows? I guess I am done. That was really fast. So here are some resources. So the Hocąk Nation is that's their website. Hocak Warak, that's their periodical. There seems to be like one lady who's doing all the stuff now. Seems like a work of love. And then there's an encyclopedia there is a T there. I don't know why. And I very recently found that there is an app that has vocabulary in it. There used to be an app that like taught the language as a whole, but I think they must have removed it from the App Store. And my brother also has a lot of recordings of Pat and I think some other people speaking, but again, he was unable to find them, and sorry for being a disappointment. I right before this, I was trying to find some audio things. The only thing I could find were Bible stories. So I want to see whether this works. Yes. Okay. I hope this is all right.
Ma oni nigra Jesus got wank shigra wawo kit e. Ma
this is what it sounds like.
Nink chunk e wanina wido kit e. Wankish eja Jesus kahanach konjesh koni. Nicodemus ka he guided. Wank shikoni he e waneja wank wajed exchange edish koni.
You can hear some of the sounds.
Egi waja. His scale on my exchange and herish.
I think that might have been a adjective.
Ma ona eja hereja. He kiresh kone. Ma ona nikchank e wanina e jawa unjeja. He kide. He jaira. He peres rogon eja pahi.
I think I remember the word he peres. I think it meant something like knowing. Okay. That's probably enough. But yeah. So If you know the stories, I think I heard the word Nicodemus in there, so that's probably what that was about. And yes, it was funny, amusing hearing the word Jesus just in a very American sort of pronunciation. Does anyone have any more questions? I kind of breezed through that. I'll look at any of these beautiful verb paradigms.
If you can eventually find the recordings, I'll send them out on the email list. That would be cool to hear.
Sure. Does anyone want? I can tell a terrible version of the turtle story. There was the turtle, the K chalk, and Pat had a turtle that she found that, or she hadn't found it. Her grandmother had gotten it so that they would eat it, but she was quite enjoying hanging out with it, and so every day she'd like go and hang out with the turtle, put it on a little stump. And so it seemed like they'd given up on the idea, and so it was her new friend. And then one day she went back and she couldn't find the turtle, and she was looking for the turtle, and then she was getting called back to go home for dinner, and dinner was the turtle. And but she ate it to thank the turtle for and, like, didn't want to like have the turtle's sacrifice go to waste, basically. And so that was always a very moving story to me, because a dead turtle.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
Any other questions?
All right.
All right. Another quick presentation week.
Well, tomorrow we'll
do
have
it.
like an hour and a half of philosophy of language. Tomorrow, next week. So it'll balance out.